Hi guys! Today's video is going to be my top 10 books of 2014. I've had a pretty good reading year this year. At the end of December I'm probably going to be at about 40 books, which is 10 books less than I read last year, but I've read far bigger books this year. So far I've read about 2,000 more pages this year than I read last year, and I read 10 more books last year. So yeah, I've also read a lot of good books this year. Look at my ratings on Goodreads, you'll see that I've read far more 5-star books this year than last year, and I've also read far less 3- and 2-star books this year, which I'm just so happy about because it means that I read books that I really liked. So yeah, this video is going to be my favourite books that I read in 2014. I'm not so much going off of star ratings as much as how much I enjoyed the book while I was reading it, as well as how much of an impact the book has had on me since then. I'm not including rereads in this. I'm actually filming this in mid-December because the only books that I'm going to read for the next of December are rereads. So yeah, let's get started. The first book that I have to show you is the very first book that I actually finished in 2014, and it is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. This book follows Patrick Bateman, a successful businessman on Wall Street, and in his spare time he also likes to murder people. This is a satire / comment on our consumer society, and it's definitely very relevant today. I think that everyone should read this, but it is not a book for everyone. It is very gory and just disgusting. I've never read or seen anything as bad as this. The gore is just out of this world. I think I've been desensitized to gore for like forever, at least in books. The stuff that's in this book, you just won't believe it. It's close to 400 pages and it's definitely not fast paced. Having said that, it is one of the most wonderful books I've ever read. The next book is probably my favourite of 2014 if I had to pick one book, and it is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. This book is about a very violent teenage boy called Alex. He basically likes to go around and assault people and generally do horrible things. For this he gets taken by the government and they force him into this program where they take away his free will. This book basically asks the question, what are we if we do not have our free will? Are we even human, or are we just living machines like A Clockwork Orange? It is such a wonderful book. This is probably the book that affected me most I've read this year. It has stuck by me since February when I read this. It is so haunting and wonderful. It's beautifully written, and it's a really special book because it's not just written in English, it is written in a made-up language. My edition has a glossary in the back so I could translate the words that I didn't understand, which was very helpful. But yeah, this is also one of those books that I think that everyone should read, but it's also one of those books I'm very protective of. I would definitely say that it's one of my favourite books of all time, and it's like, I don't want anyone to hate it because it's so, I think it's so amazing, and I have no words. It's one of the most wonderful books I've ever read, truly. Next book I'm going to talk about is A Storm of Swords by George R.R. Martin. I have this book in 2 volumes, which is why I'm holding 2 books. Just look at that. That's absolutely massive. If you don't know, this is the 3rd book in the A Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. Of course, the first book is Game of Thrones, and this is the series that the TV series Game of Thrones is based on. Like I said, this is the 3rd book in the series and by far my favourite. I wanted to put in all of the 4 books that I read in the series this year, but I think that would be kind of unfair to other books that I read. But yeah, this series is absolutely amazing, and the 3rd book is definitely my favourite. It is such a page turner. I think I read this in a total of 6 days. It's about 1,200 pages all in all, and like no words. I'm not going to try to explain what this series is about because it's far too complicated for me, so if you guys don't know what it is, look it up because it's amazing. The 3rd book is so good. There are so many plot twists and just wonderful things. I love the characters in this series. I need the 6th book like now. I need it like now. The next book is The Scorch Trials by James Dashner. At first I debated if I actually wanted to put this in the video, but I decided that I enjoyed this so much that it needs to be in it. This is of course the 2nd book in the Maze Runner trilogy, and I absolutely loved it. I think that this is by far the best book in the series. I really enjoyed Dashna's writing in this, and I just thought the story unfolded really well, and in this book I didn't feel like I had too many questions that were unanswered, so I really enjoyed it. The next book I'm going to be talking about is The Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This is the 4th book in the series. This is technically a short story collection, but yeah, it's a book. I absolutely love all of these. This is the only Sherlock Holmes book that I read this year, but I absolutely loved it as usual. Definitely had some of my favourite stories in it. I love the Silver Blaze, the Musgrave Ritual, and of course I love the Final Problem. Oh, the feels. So yeah, I don't think I have to explain who Sherlock Holmes is, but if you haven't heard about Sherlock Holmes, then you should probably look that one up too. I am slowly making my way through the Sherlock Holmes series, and I'm looking forward to picking up the next book soon. Okay, so the next one is a very, very loved book here on BookTube, and it is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. It is a World War II historical fiction about a girl called Liesel from the perspective of a death, which is really interesting. I just absolutely loved this book. I know that a lot of people say it's really difficult to read, or like it took them a while, but I have to say that I absolutely flew through this book, and it is so wonderful. I love Markus Zusak's writing, and I think this is a masterpiece, to be honest. I have to say that historical fiction is one of my favourite genres, even though I haven't read a lot of it, but I love historical fiction, and this was done so well. Next up we have my favourite contemporary of the year, and it is Wonder by R.J. Palacio. I put up a review of this book, so I'll link that in the down bar in case you want a more in-depth review. But this is basically about a boy called August who was born with a fatal abnormality, and we get to follow him as he starts school for the very first time. This is a book about bullying and friendship and just... it's so amazing. I don't even know what to say. This by far is my favourite contemporary of the year, and I couldn't recommend it enough. Next we have The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This contains one of my favourite themes of all time, humanity's basis to capacity for evil, and yeah, I was bound to love this. This is of course about the corrupt young gentleman Dorian Gray, who wishes a picture of himself would age instead of him, and his picture then becomes his most hideous secret as he spirals down a life of cruelty and depravity. I couldn't say it any better than Penguin has in the back of this book. It says, "The picture of Dorian Gray is a masterpiece of the evil in men's hearts," which is exactly what it is. It is so good. The next book is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This is of course the fairy tale retelling of Cinderella in a sci-fi kind of dystopian world. I really enjoyed this. It's probably my most enjoyable read this year. I have definitely discovered a new favourite genre, which is fairy tale retellings, and it is just a wonderful story. I need to pick up the rest of the series. Enough said. And the final book that I'm going to show you is Animal Farm by George Orwell. I read this in early August, I believe, and it has definitely haunted me ever since. This is a satire of communist Russia, told from the perspective of a farm. If you haven't noticed yet, yes, satires is something that I very much enjoy, and this is just so beautifully done. George Orwell has crafted something that is truly unique, and it was very enjoyable to read. This is one of those books that you should read. It is so short, it is 90 pages I believe. Yeah, it's about 95 pages, so it'll take you like a day. Read it, just read it, read it. So yeah, those were my favourite books of 2014. And I'm gonna leave before I drop all of these books. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.